I'm Andrew Phillips, and welcome to this premiere episode of Musician's Corner. Basically, in this episode, I want to give an overview of what to expect going forward as we deal with different things pertaining to musical instruments as far as repairs, upgrades, modifications, reviews, and overviews of different products. All kinds of cool stuff ahead. I look forward to interacting with different musicians out there on social media and YouTube, and just getting your feedback and just connecting with all of you. So let's go ahead and get started as I just kind of give an overview of what to expect as we go forward. Now, what I want to do briefly is just kind of go through some of the projects that we have coming up that'll be featured in episodes as we go forward into Musician's Corner. We have a BC Rich Mockingbird that needs some work done to it. We're going to go into a little more in depth as far as what that is. BC Rich Warlock needs some work done to that. These are all old vintage instruments that I've had since the 1980s. So some of these have been sitting on the rack for a while. Other ones have been played and just need some work done to them. Then we also have this BC Rich Ironbird that needs some work done to the tremolo, maybe even resetting the pickup. And then last but not least, we have this old Kramer Randy Rhoads Flying V. Needs a lot of work done to that. We're going to go through that as well. And then as well as a lot of other instruments that I have that we'll be kind of showcasing and going forward. But let's go ahead and take a seat over there. I'm going to bring these instruments over and just kind of give a quick overview of what we're going to be doing to those as we go forward. Now, first up, we have this older BC Rich Mockingbird right here. Pretty basic configuration. We have the humbucker, the fixed bridge, just one knob on it. And to be honest, that's how I like it. Most of my guitars, I just have just the bridge humbucker. I'm not too big into the neck. However, this has a fixed bridge configuration. So what we're going to be doing in the upcoming episodes, we're going to be removing that and replacing it with this vintage Kahler 2330 Flyer flush mount tremolo. I've always been a big fan of Kahlers, even though I do have some Floyd Roses as well. But I personally like Kahlers, so we're going to be swapping that out. So what we need to do in order to complete that, we're going to have to remove this bridge, extract the studs, fill that, go ahead and route out the proper routing configuration for the Kahler. Then we're going to go ahead and refinish this guitar, because once we do that, obviously there's going to be some filler that has to take place. There's also a little bit of damage on there already. However, I've always been a big fan of this metallic red that BC Rich uses, so we'll be refinishing that in the exact same finish. So that's probably our biggest project that we have coming up. And here's a close-up. Basically how the Kahler would be mounted is once this is removed, that'll be put in roughly at this position right here. And you can see the close-up there. This is the Kahler 2330, the Flyer. Vintage. This is kind of this, I believe this is the same Kahler models that they used back in the 80s as well, which is what I'm trying to stick with to kind of keep with the style of this Mockingbird. So that'll be mounted right there. Next on the list is this old vintage BC Rich Warlock, which is looking pink on this video, but in actuality it is not pink. This was a color that was actually used by the old BC Rich guitars back in the 80s, which is when this was made. It's kind of like a two-tone. It has like a pinkish purplish look from some angles, and then like a bluish purple from other angles. But for now, we'll say it's pink since that's how it's showing up in the video. This one here is actually fitted with a 2520 Kahler. This is a full chrome tremolo of theirs, one of their floating tremolos, which is pretty cool. They're a little more rare. You don't see them too much. It's more the flush mounts like the 2330 that we're putting the Flyer in the Mockingbird. But what I want to do with this one here, I've had this guitar since the 80s, and to be honest, I haven't used it in a long time. It's just been sitting on the rack collecting dust. Need to adjust the Kahler, get that set just right with the springs. It has just a lower end EMG Select humbucker, which needs to be taken out. I'm either going to put either an active pickup in there or a very hot passive pickup. Still deciding what to do with that. Some of the wiring's a little wacky on this thing. It's got an old coil tap, which I wouldn't use anyway. However, the wiring's screwed up on that and on some of these knobs here. So, gonna pretty much just go through this whole thing, redo the wiring, set the Kahler on it, swap out and upgrade the humbucker, and just pretty much just clean it up. So that's another project that we have coming up on this one as well.
And you can see here, here's the Kahler 2520, the full chrome. You can see how it lifts up like a floater. It's not the flush mount recessed like the 2330 that we're putting on the Mockingbird. And then there's the old EMG Select pickup, which we're scrapping that as well. Here's a close-up of the paint scheme on the Warlocks. You can see what I'm talking about. How it has a little bit of that bluish purple, you can see it there. And depending how the light hits it, it can look more that color instead of that pinkish color that's showing up under the spotlights.
Next we have one of my favorites here. This is my BC Rich Ironbird. This is also another old one from back in the day. I've had this one for a while as well. This is the one that I've used a lot with my band. Some of the videos that we shot, I used it in, and I've used this one a lot. I love this guitar. This one doesn't need a lot of work done to it. However, it does have a Seymour Duncan Super Distortion humbucker in it, which sounds great. It does, however, just have a generic BC Rich locking tremolo. This is just a single locking tremolo. So this tremolo is in need of some work. It needs to be adjusted, or we may just go ahead and just remove it and just put just a Floyd Rose double locking tremolo in there. So still undecided on that, but that's pretty much all the upgrades that would be done with this one. Everything else on it is actually great, and as I mentioned before, this is my favorite guitar. I've had this for a while. I've used this a lot, and this is in kind of like that pearl white that you'll see in some of the other BC Rich guitars that they use the same paint color. So that's it pretty much for this one.
And you can see here, this is the tremolo. Very basic. I mean, it does the job. You can do some good dive bombs and stuff with it, but definitely in need of some work or swapping it out. But that's just a close-up of it there for you.
Now the last one that we're going to talk about today, which probably needs some of the most work, is this old Kramer. This is an old Kramer Striker, which is a Randy Rhoads Flying V. Always loved this body style, the old Jackson ones as well. This is another guitar that I've had in my collection for years. This one has also been hanging on the rack with the Warlock for decades and not being used. Part of the reason it needs some work, the sound is just out of whack. So kind of coming to the point now where I'm ready to put some time into it and fix it up the way it needs to be fixed up, so that way it can be appreciated and played the way it was meant to be played. So what we have here, we have two humbuckers in here, the bridge and the neck pickups that are completely crap. These things are crap. They're not even set properly because they've been sitting in here for so long. I've kind of used them to part out stuff, so they're just sitting here loose. So I want to get rid of both of these, replace them with some really good either active pickups or some very hot passive pickups, but really get some nice metal sound coming out of this thing. The wiring configuration is actually excellent. And the cool thing with this one, it still has the original German-made single locking Floyd, the original Floyd Rose, made in Germany. And that's actually all set good. It has really good good plate to it. The springs are good. But the main thing is these pickups. Need to get them out of there, put some decent pickups in there. And I'll get a close-up of it also, but the body has seen better days. It's got a lot of flaws and dings and dents on it, so I'm not sure, but I might go ahead and strip that down and refinish it and just completely restore this, or just for the sake of patina, I might just leave it the way it is, the body, and just do the pickups. But this is another big project along with the Mockingbird, so that'll be coming up also in some of the future episodes. We'll be working on this one as well.
And you can see here how the pickups are just shot, just kind of laying in there loosely. And that's the single lock and Floyd. You can see some of the damage here on the body right here where on the beveled edge, just worn out here. It's got some chips on the points. So I don't know. Debating whether or not to refinish it or not. Like I said, we'll kind of get into that at a later date. There's a close-up of the single locking Floyd Rose tremolo. You can see that.
And another thing that I wanted to do some work on my amplifier here. I have an old Ampeg. This is a V-2 412. This is an actual guitar amplifier. A lot of people associate Ampegs with their bass amplifiers that they're known for nowadays, but back in the 60s, they did make some good guitar amps as well. This is either a 67 or 69, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but a lot of it's all original. So I want to do some work on that. We have one of the toggle switches that needs to be replaced, have some of the tubes that I want to go through, maybe replace, and just pretty much just go through and just revamp the head on this thing in general.
And you can see here on this old Ampeg V-2 head, it's just very basic. Just the simple knobs, no modeling or any kind of emulations or cabinet duplicating or anything. This is just the basic stuff right here.
So we have that we're going to be taking care of along with all of these guitars that we just talked about. I also have some pedals, some emulators that I want to do some reviews of and showcase some of that. Many other musical instruments that we're going to get into as well. I look forward to connecting, as I mentioned at the beginning, with a lot of you musicians out there or just people that appreciate music or musical instruments. A lot of the stuff here on my channel that I do pertains to automotive repair, home improvements, and also some casino game modifications and repairs as well. But I also have a passion for music, so I wanted to add that in here as well. So if you're watching this and maybe you are into cars or any other things outside of music, please check out my channel, view some of my other videos, and I appreciate that as well. That pretty much wraps up this time here. I just wanted to do an introduction as far as what to expect as we go forward here with this Musician's Corner. Please send me any questions, any comments. I would love to hear from you. I hope this video was entertaining and informative for you as far as what to expect. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel. As always, I appreciate all the support, and I look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to move along on these projects. Catch you next time.